Alright, so in this module, what we're going to do is we're going to learn a couple of things. First, we're going to learn how to play music in our application, and then we're going to learn how to get images to animate on the screen. So what we have here is a mock-up of a small little game with characters from my game Monkey Kiss and Donkey, available on the App Store at projectmkd.com. You can have the link there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate the end product here. So I'm going to click on this first monkey here and try and set the speakers. Let's see if we can get into the recording. Hopefully you guys can hear this. Turn up the volume as well. And we'll see, we'll try different settings. There we go. So I've got it on my headpiece. I'm not sure if it's being recorded. But just in case, I'll try internal speakers and hold it up to the... Okay, so there's music playback. I'm not sure how well that's going to come out on the recording. And there's a volume control. So I'm going to reduce the volume as well. And you can see that the volume does drop. So we're going to focus on music playback here. And then, next page, we'll click on Donkey over here. And he's going to fly across the screen. He's doing his flying kicks, and he's going to fly across the screen. And third monkey we're going to click on will just fade away. So we'll learn how to do a fade animation. Right. We're just going to focus on music for just one of the pages instead of all three, because the code's pretty repetitive. Once you have one, then you can understand how to do it for the other pages. So I won't be doing the volume controls for the other two pages. So anyway, that's the app that we're going to focus on. So our focus here now is to start a new project. So we're going to say File, New Project. Just going to kill the volume here on my audio playback. We're going to do iOS single view app as we normally do. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this musical animations. And language is Swift. Hit next and give it a home. So now we have our project here. What we're going to do is we're going to start off by just bringing in the items we need. So I'm going to create a group for my images. So I'm going to say new group. I'm going to call it images. I'm not going to use the assets stuff. I'm just going to be quickly just bringing images in. Of course you can use the assets. It's easier to do. And another group for sounds or music, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to bring in my images first. I'm going to right click and say add files. And navigate to where your images are. Don't forget copy items if needed must be checked. Alright, so I've got donkey.png, monkey.png, and city.jpg. And bring those in, copy items if needed. Alright, so I have 3 images, and you can just grab images off the internet or just reuse images from our past exercises. So we did the multi-page app recently, so you can go back to that exercise and use those images. But you basically just need a background image, and you need 2, maybe 3 button images, and you're going to reuse those button images to animate across the screen for the respective pages. Now for sounds, you just need a song file. So I'm going to say add file. So bring in any music file on your hard drive into the project. So I'm going to just grab song1.mp3, copy items if needed. You can of course bring in 3 songs, 1 for each page if you want to go that far. But for us, all our intents and purposes, just 1 song is good enough for this video. So now let's focus on getting our application's UI up and running. So start with launch screen.storyboard. I'm going to switch it to a landscape orientation and bring in an image view. Just fill up my screen with it. And set it to city.jpg. Maybe I'll fade it out to 0.5. And you'll see why in a moment. Put a label that says loading. Stretch it out. Just say loading. Maybe increase the font, change the color just so it's more readable. Choose like a neon green. All right, so that'll be our launch screen. We'll switch over to main.storyboard. Do the same thing, landscape orientation. I'll stick to iPhone 8 still. And what I'll do here is first I'm going to bring in 3 more view controllers, 1 for each page. All right, that's page 2. Page 3 over here. And put page 4 over here. And then before we continue, let's add some view controllers to support each screen. So I'm going to create a new group. And we'll call it view controllers. And I'm going to drag over viewcontroller.swift. And what we're going to do is I'm going to add a few more view controllers here. So I'm going to say new file, iOS CocoaTouch class. Hit next, it'll be subclass of UI view controller. So I'm going to call this first one spin view controller because that character is going to spin in this view controller. Give it a home. Add another view controller, iOS CocoaTouch class. We'll call this one fly view controller. Give it a home. And add another view controller, iOS CocoaTouch class. And it'll be a fade view controller. And that'll be good enough. So we have view controller, spin view controller.swift, fly view controller.swift, and fade view controller.swift. And so now we'll jump back to our main storyboard and link them all up. So looks like one view controller moved. And now we'll leave the first one as the home page. This one will become our spin view controller. So I'm going to click on the identity inspector, go to class, type in spin, hit tab. This one will be fade. So say fade view controller. And then this will be fly view controller. So I've got fade view controller, fly view controller, spin view controller, view controller. Doesn't matter what order, it just as long as you have separate view controllers supporting each class. So now let's start with the home page. I'm going to put a background image consistent with the loading screen. So I'm going to look for an image view. Stretch it out across. And use my image to be set as, my file is called city.jpg. And I want to fade it out to 0.5 so that my buttons with these images will be more visible. You can go less if you want. I think 0.5 is good enough for the home page. I'm going to add a button, well, 3 buttons, but I'm just going to search for a button. And I'm going to hard code the size, because it's an iPhone 8, to 205 by 200. So I went into the size inspector, and I set this size to 205 by 200. All right. Now, going to my attributes inspector, I'm going to choose this background image, a background to be monkey. If I choose image, it's going to resize the button, which I don't want to do. Now, let's put some text to this. So we're going to say the word spin for this and increase the font and change the color to something bright like red. So maybe 49 is good. And we'll say text color is red. Something readable. And I'm going to actually take that same button and copy and paste it 2 more times because it's easier that way. And this one, its text will be fly. And its background will be donkey. The donkey will fly across the screen. And then paste again. This one, well, what's left is fade. So change it to fade. Alright, so we got spin, fly, and fade. Now, we have our buttons, we have our home page in play. Let's connect each button to a particular view controller. So I'm going to click on the spin button, hit the control key on my keyboard, click, drag to the spin view controller, and use present modally. Then for fly, fly is right off to the side there, so I'll click on the fly button, hold the control key on my keyboard, click and drag, and choose present modally. Then finally fade, click on fade, hit the control key on my keyboard, click, drag to fade view controller, again choose present modally. So now I have these three buttons and three view controllers. So now I can finish off the other pages here. So we'll add a nav bar and a back button to each of the sub pages. So look for a navigation bar. Of course, you can dress it up. I won't. And we'll just put the title as fly. And I'll put a nav bar here. And we'll say this one is fade. And then this last nav bar will be spin. Oops, I'll fix that in a minute. So let's just adjust it a bit better. There we go, sits much better. Now we need a bar button item. And it will say back. Another bar button item. It will say back. Finally, bar button item. This will say back. Now for spin, well, for all three we'll put a background image, and then for spin we'll put a volume control. So let's look for an image view. Put an image view as the background of all three. I know it won't line up size-wise. Maybe we should do the image view first and put the nav bar on top, but that's something you can try yourself. So city.jpg, but I'm going to make the alpha for this like 0.15. It'll be the exact same image view for all three. And alpha 0.15. And this one will be also 0.15 alpha, but again, city.jpg. Alright, so I got all of my images in play. Just for spin, I'm going to add a label. I'm going to add a label and a volume slider. So put the word volume here. And slider. Stretch it out, center it. And I'm going to leave the values as 0.5 with minimum 0 and maximum 1 because that lines up with the volume setting for the AV Foundation class when we're playing back audio. So no need to change the numbering. Now, we basically have our UI in play except for one last thing, which is our back button. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our viewcontroller.swift because all of our pages are going to return back to viewcontroller.swift. And we're going to add our Unwind Segue method. So it's an IB action, func, unwind to home view controller, where its argument will be sender, and its type will be UI storyboard segue. All right, so we got this unwind to home view controller, unwind story. This is the type argument will be UI storyboard segue. This is the keyword again. If this is different, then it's not going to work properly. So now that we have it, we're going to switch back to main.storyboard, and then we're going to connect each back button to the exit icon. So click on back, hit the control key on my keyboard, click, and drag, and choose unwind to home view controller. Do it 2 more times. So click on back, hit the control key on my keyboard, click, drag, unwind to home view controller. Finally, click on back, control key, click, drag, unwind to home view controller. Now we have full page navigation. We can give it a run, but a couple of things we want to do first. First, click on our project settings. We're only doing a landscape app, so let's uncheck portrait. And then choose our simulator to be an iPhone 8 and hit run. All right, so there's loading. We have spin, goes to there, hit back, hit fly, fly goes to the fly page, hit back, fade goes to the fade page, hit back. So we have full page navigation in play here. All right, now that we have full page navigation in play, let's start by playing some music on the spin page. So we're going to go over to spin viewcontroller.swift, and we're going to set up for getting audio to play. But in order to actually do anything here, we need to bring in some libraries. Well, we need to bring in one library for audio playback, and we need to bring in a library for animation. So we might as well bring both at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our project settings again. We're going to swipe all the way to the bottom. We have linked frameworks and libraries. Click on the plus sign. And I'm going to bring in AV Foundation. All right. And we're going to bring in one more for the animations, which is Quartz Core. So Quartz Core has all the functionality for our animations. All right, so the two frameworks we need for this exercise, AV Foundations for musical playback, Quartz Core is for animating items across the screen. So now we can switch back to spin viewcontroller.swift, and we can start writing some code to support starting with the sound. So I'm going to import AV Foundation. And I'm going to bring in a couple of delegates here to support our audio playback. So we'll say spin view controller extends UI view controller, and in a nutshell implements AV audio session delegate and AV audio player delegate. So we have these two methods to support our actions for the audio playback. Now we're going to declare a couple of variables to support our audio playback. First, we have a slider on the screen. So we're going to say IB outlet, we'll say var vol slider. It'll be of type UI slider with exclamation mark. And then we'll say var sound player. We have type AV audio player with a question mark. Now, what we'll do is we'll set up an event handler for the slider so that I can adjust the volume. So we're going to say IB action, func, call it volume did change, and we'll say sender UI slider. And all we're going to say here is sound player dot volume equals vol slider dot value. And we'll probably need an optional here, so actually should say sound player question mark, and then that'll line things up nicely. Now, I'm going to introduce a sister method called viewWillAppear to viewDidLoad. In viewDidLoad, we're going to do all of our setup for the animation. In viewWillAppear, we'll do our music setup. You don't have to do it this way. I'm just illustrating one of the sister methods to viewDidLoad, which allows you to execute code a little bit sooner in the view lifecycle. So if you find that viewDidLoad isn't good enough, use viewDidAppear. So I'll type in viewWillAppear. It auto-completes that method for me. So now let's get into actually getting audio to play back here. So first thing we'll do is we're gonna create a URL object that'll point to the musical file in our app, and it'll be bundled in. So we have song1.mp3. Song1.mp3 will be bundled in with our app binary, which will be uploaded to the App Store. We can see our product here is musicalanimations.app. It's going to be bundled into this file here. So we're going to get access to this file right now by saying let sound URL equal bundle.main.path, and we'll use that one. So for resource, so we'll just put the first part of the name of the file, which is just song1. And the file extension will go into the second argument, so we'll say of type mp3. Right, so that'll be our link to the sound file inside the app file. Next step is to create a URL object to actually support data transfer to this file or from this file. So we'll say let URL equal and then capital URL. And we'll use file URL with path sound URL. And it'll probably request an optional there, so let's see what it suggests to us. So it suggests an exclamation mark. It's going to hit fix. Now, next step will be to initialize our audio player. So we're going to say self.soundPlayer will equal avaudioplayer.init will provide contents of URL. But it's going to complain here. It's going to say, hey, this actually throws an exception. So we need to put this inside sort of a try catch. We won't bother with a catch. We'll just put it inside a try. So we'll say try with an exclamation mark and then avaudioplayer.init. Now that we have that, we'll set a starting time of the song. We'll just start the song at 0. So at the beginning of the song. So we'll say self.soundplayer.volume of .current time. Got a little ahead of myself. Is equal to 0. Now we'll set the volume. So self.soundplayer.volume equals vol slider.value. Now we want this song to repeat continuously. So we're going to set self.soundplayer.number of loops to -1. And then finally, we're going to play the song. So we'll say self.soundplayer.play. That's enough to get the song going. Now, one other thing we'll do is when we want the song, when we want to leave the page, go back to our home page, we want the song to stop playing. So we're going to add a method called viewDidDisappear. sister method to viewDidLoad. It just executes upon leaving the screen. And here we'll just say self.soundPlayer.stop. So just to stop the song upon leaving the screen, so it can free up its resources and whatnot. All right. So at this point, we have enough to try and get the song to play on our screen. So we'll switch back to main.storyboard, and we'll go to our spin page, spin view controller, highlight the yellow circle. Let's go to our connections inspector, connect up vol slider to the slider, and also at the bottom, connect our event handler to the slider. So volume did change. And we'll use value changed, because the value will change. Now let's give it a run. And I'll turn up the volume on my internal speakers just so you can hear it. We'll click on spin. You should hear music. Holding my microphone up to the speaker on my laptop. And adjusting the volume all the way up. The volume has gone up. And then all the way to the bottom. And you hear no music now. So we know audio playback works. It's still playing, hit back, and the music has stopped playing, going to the home page. So I'll just mute the audio right now, just so that we don't hear any more system sounds, just in case. So now we have our music playing. Now the next step is to get an animation, an image to animate in a spinning motion. So we're going to put that code inside viewDidLoad. So going back to our spin view controller.swift, we're going to define a variable. We'll say var spin layer extends CALayer ? And inside viewDidLoad, we're going to write all the code we need to get this item to display on the screen and animate. So there's viewDidLoad. So something like this is a two-step process. First, we need to get the item onto the screen. So we're not going to use an image view in a storyboard. We're actually going to manually encode, get something to display using a CALayer. So if you're familiar with Photoshop, photoshopping images involves layering items on top of the other. Similar concept here in iOS with the CALayer object. So first thing we're going to do is define a UI image. So we'll say let spin image equal UI image. We'll say named, provide the file name. So monkey.png is the name of my file. And then we'll initialize our CALayer. So we'll say spin layer is equal to CALayer dot init. So we're instantiating this object. Now we're going to take the image we just defined and feed its contents into the CALayer. So we're going to say spin layer dot contents is equal to spin image dot CG image. Okay, let's hard code a location and size. So we'll say spin layer dot bounds is equal to CG rect, and I'm going to overload it with the ints. So I'm going to provide an x, y, width, and height. It will be 0, 0, and then 150 by 150. Then separately, I'll set the positioning. So I'll say spin layer dot position is equal to CG point and we'll set it to, we'll use the ints again. We'll say it's 200 by 200. Now bounds, I think, should have also had a question mark. So let's put that in. Then we'll add it to the screen. So we'll say self.view.layer.add sublayer. And we'll pass in spin layer, exclamation mark. Now let's give it a run. So this is the first step, getting the image to paste onto the screen. So you see monkeys right there. All right, won't worry about the song. We know the song is playing in the background. I'll just keep my speakers on mute. Hit back. Now, let's get this thing to animate. So we're going to use a rotation animation. So we're going to instantiate an object of type CA basic animation. So we'll say let rotate animation equal CA basic animation. And we'll provide its key path. Now this is an important argument because you're going to specify what kind of animation there is. So it'll be transform dot rotation. We'll say rotate animation dot timing function. Now, not necessary, not required, but we're going to say that it's going to start its spin, so easily, gradually into the spin, and then ease when it gets to the end of the rotation. Ease in and ease out. So we're going to say timing functions equal to CA media timing function name will be, and this is a hard-coded variable anyway, so CA media timing function ease in, ease out. So we're going to ease in, ease out. Now, we're going to specify our rotation. We'll start our rotation angle at 0 radians. So say rotate animation dot from value will be at 0. And we'll say rotate animation dot to value will be at 2 pi. So 2 times double dot pi, which is of course 360 degrees. Now next one, we could say we want to take the we want to remove the image from the screen upon completing the animation. We'll leave it on the screen so we don't have to go through the process of repasting it onto the screen. So rotate animation dot is removed on completion is equal to false. We'll set the duration of our spin to 1 second. So say rotate animation dot duration is equal to 1.0. And then we'll say that we want to repeat this for forever. We just want to keep constantly spinning it. So we'll say rotate animation dot repeat count is equal to float dot infinity. And then finally, let's add this animation to the screen. So spin layer dot add, not add sublayer, sorry, just add. And we'll say rotate animation for key. Now this is an important argument. I'm going to set it to nil. I recommend you not set it to nil, but actually put a string value in, like a label, saying that this, I don't know, like my spin animation or something, because you can take this a step further and say, maybe you're going to have like 4 or 5 animations, and maybe you want to remove specific animations in different order. You can actually remove them by specifying the key value here. So I wouldn't recommend setting it to nil. But for this exercise, we'll leave it as nil. Now, let's give it a run. So we'll hit spin again. And there's monkey spinning around. Now for this, you could probably comment out the media timing function line, because maybe you just want to constantly spin. This is showing an ease into the spin and ease out. So just to illustrate, I'm going to comment it out and watch it again. This time hit spin. More of a constant flow. There was a little bit of, it might have looked like a little bit clunky, but you also, and this looks a little more smoother. Maybe you wanted the ease in, ease out. It's up to you. But anyway, in a nutshell, that was the spinning animation. Alright, now that we've done the spinning animation, it's time to move over to another animation on another page. So we're going to go over to Fly View Controller, and we're going to do the flying animation. So what we're going to do is define our CALayer. So we define a variable, and we'll say var, call it flyLayer, is of type CALayer, question mark. And we'll jump down to view to load. We're going to go through the same process of getting an image to display on the screen without a UI image view and a storyboard. We'll just do it manually using layering. So we'll say let fly image equal UI image named, and this one will be called donkey.png. That's the name of my file. So my character donkey. Now we're going to instantiate the CALayer object we just defined above. So we'll say flyLayer equals CALayer.init. Now we're going to feed the contents of our UI image into this CALayer by saying flyLayer.contents is equal to flyImage.cgImage. Now let's specify the location and size. So we'll say flyLayer.bounds is equal to cgrect. I'll use the ints again, and we'll just say that it's at 0, 0, and 150 by 150 again. Same location. Sorry, same size. Now we'll specify the location at 0, 0. So specify 0, 0, so top left corner is 0, 0. So we'll say flyLayer dot position is equal to CG point at 0, 0. And then we'll say self.view.layer.add sublayer, and we'll add in flyLayer with exclamation mark. Now we have enough to give it a run, and on our fly page we should see Donkey in the corner. Okay, so I'll click on the fly button, and it's kind of tough to see, but it should be in the corner. We'll have to prove it with an animation. So, or better yet, we'll just change it to like 50 by 50 positioning, and just to prove that he's in the corner. We'll try again, because the reason he's at the upper half of the image, so I was hoping to just see like a leg or something, but we won't. So let's click on fly, and there he is, top corner. So now let's get him to move. So we're going to use another basic animation with a different key path. So we're going to say let move animation equal CA basic animation. Key path will be, and this time we're going to say position. So again, the key path, the text here is important, it's case sensitive, and it needs to be spelled correctly in order to get the animation to actually work. We'll use our timing function again. So we'll say move animation dot timing function. We'll use the ease in, ease out again. So we'll say CA media timing function, and we'll say name will be, again, KCA media ease in, ease out. Long name. Make sure that you type it in correctly. Now, our from and our to, the arguments for those are of type NS value. So we're going to have to convert our CG point into NS value here. So we're going to say move animation dot from value is equal to NS value dot init. We'll take an overload of CG point, but it looks like it won't auto-complete for us, so we'll say CG point. Actually, I might be able to find it. Colon, and then create a CG point of 0, 0. Actually, no, 50, 50. All right, so that's our from value, 50, 50. We're going to have it slide to 700, 500. So same thing, but this time we're going to say move animation dot to value is equal to ns value dot init for CG point, colon, create a new CG point, and we'll use the ints again, and just say 700, 500. Let's set our duration to 3 seconds. So say move animation dot duration to 3 seconds, so equals 3.0. And then we're going to repeat this over and over again forever. So we'll also set our repeat count to infinity. So we'll say move animation dot repeat count is equal to float dot infinity. And then finally add it to the screen. So fly layer dot add, and we'll say move animation comma for key. We'll say nil again. Again, put another string there, put something, give it a label so you can refer to it later. Now, once you put in an optional, let's insert that question mark and make it happy. Before we run, we missed one line. We're just going to add it up here. We're going to say move animation dot is removed on completion, set it equal to false. And let's give it a run. We'll hit fly, and there he goes, flying across the screen over and over and over again. All right, so we've done a fly animation. All that's left is the fade in animation. Again, similar concept. We're just going to fade out and then have it reappear, but you might want to approach having two animations to fade in and fade out, so it looks like it's sort of hovering, or it gives like a really cool effect. But let's go back. Let's go to our fade view controller. And we're going to add in our CALayer again. So we're going to define a variable, call it fade layer. So we'll say var fade layer is of type CALayer, question mark. And then inside view did load, let's get monkey to appear again. So we're going to define saying let fade image equal UI image named, and we'll say monkey.png. Then we'll instantiate our CALayer object, so we'll say fade layer equals CALayer.init, and then we'll feed the contents of our UI image into our CALayer by saying fade layer dot contents equals fade image dot CG image. Again, we'll set the location, the size first, and then the location. So we'll say fade layer dot bounds is equal to CG rect, and we'll say the ints again. We'll say 0, 0, and we'll put it at again 150 by 150, and then we'll say fade layer dot position is equal to CG point, and we'll say that X and Y will be at 200 by 200, and then finally add it to the screen. So self.view.layer.add sublayer for fade layer. Now let's go ahead and give it a run. Oh, but let's satisfy the optional unwrapping, hitting fix by putting exclamation mark, give it a run, and we should see our image. Okay, so I'll hit fade, and there he is right there. So now we have something to work with. We're going to get him to fade in and fade out. So let's go through the same motions again to get this to animate and fade out by declaring a fade animation. So we'll say let fade animation equal CA basic animation. We'll say key path will be, this time we're going to say opacity. We'll again use the fade in, fade out. So we'll say fade animation dot timing function is equal to CA media timing function. We'll say name will be again the ease in, ease out. So CA media time function, ease in, ease out. Now we'll set our from value to be 1, so full opacity. So fade animation dot from value will be, and now it's just 1, but we have to convert it to an NS number object. So we'll say NS number dot init. We'll say value will be 1.0. And then we'll say the to value is 0. So we'll say fade animation dot to value is equal to NS number dot init. And we'll say 0.0. We want to keep it on there at the end. We don't want to remove the image after. So we'll say fade animation dot is removed on completion is equal to false. We'll set our duration to 3 seconds again as well. So it's going to take 3 seconds to fade. So we'll say fade animation dot duration is equal to 3.0. Fade animation dot begin time is equal to, we'll say 1. I'm adding this extra step in. You don't need to, but I'm adding it in to say, hey, maybe you want to delay the start of the animation by saying, you know, we'll keep it on for 1 second and then start fading out after 1 second. So from second 2 and second 3, it'll do the fade animation. Another next variable we'll add in, we don't need to, but we'll add it in, fade animation dot is additive. In a nutshell, we'll say it's false, first of all, but in a nutshell, it's basically saying, is it going to be an exponential fade, or is it going to be a linear fade, like a constant fade out, or is it going to be exponentially fading out? We'll say false, so it's just linear. Now we'll set the fade animation dot fill mode to CA fill mode both, and we'll repeat it. So we'll say fade animation dot repeat count is equal to float dot infinity, and then finally we're going to add it to the screen. So we're going to say fade layer dot add for fade animation for key nil, but of course replace that with a string, and give it a run. Oh, but before we do, it's going to complain. We should satisfy its optionals by adding a question mark for fade layer. Give it a run. And let's look at our fade animation. So hit fade. And there it is, slowly fading out. Stays on for a sec, then gradually goes away. And that is monkey fading away. So let's recap what we've learned about here today. We've essentially created a multi-page app, which we reviewed in a previous exercise, we learned how to add music. So on our spin layer, we got the music to play. Then we also got the image monkey to rotate 360 degrees repeatedly. Then we took Donkey and had him fly across the screen. And now we've finally taken Monkey again and faded him away. So all these characters are brought to you by Monkey Kiss and Donkey 2 at projectmkd.com. It's available for iOS and Android, so please do take a moment, download the game, enjoy it, have fun with it, and hope you learned from this tutorial. And until next time, I'll see you later.